So, this is a story about a new kind of school, but really, it's about one man's personal quest. A guy who, by all accounts, had everything, but he realized he had nothing he actually wanted. And in that search for meaning, he ended up sparking what you could call an educational revolution, almost completely by accident.
The man's name is Jeff Sandefer. And that question, well, it just haunted him. I mean, think about it. It's a pretty strange kind of crisis, right? Not one of failure, but of massive success. What do you do when you climb the mountain, get to the very top, and realize it's not the right mountain? That's really where our story kicks off.
And this timeline, it just shows you how ridiculously fast he got to the quote-unquote top. At 16, while most of us were flipping burgers, he was netting 100 grand. 100. Then by 26, he takes $1 million investment and turns it into $500 million. He basically won the game of capitalism, but instead of popping champagne, he just felt empty, totally and utterly lost.
So, to figure things out, Sandefer did something pretty unusual. He didn't go buy a private island or a yacht. Nope. He walked into a classroom at the University of Texas. But here's the twist. He wasn't there to lecture or give answers. He was there to figure out how to ask better questions.
He went all in on something called the Socratic method. And what this does is it completely flips the script on learning. The goal isn't to just memorize a bunch of facts for a test. Instead, you're dropped right into a real-life dilemma. You're in the hot seat, playing the role of a CEO or a leader, and the question is simple but terrifying. What would you do and why? It's not about learning what to think, it's about learning how to think and how to act.
So here's the best way to think about the difference. A traditional teacher, they'll give you the map. Here's the route, follow it. But a Socratic guide, they hand you a blank piece of paper and a pencil and say, okay, you draw the map. The whole point is for you to build your own compass, your own set of principles, by wrestling with one real-world story after another.
So how did this new approach go over? Well, this new way of teaching, it was a smash hit. Students absolutely loved it. It was so popular that it actually became a threat to the university itself. And you know what happens when a system feels threatened, right? It fights back, hard. You can't argue with the results. Look at this. Sandefer's team won Teacher of the Year 11 years in a row. They were teaching a full 25% of all elective hours. The students were voting with their feet. But when the university tried to shut it down and the students protested, the dean told them something absolutely bone-chilling. He said, "You are not our customers." Just, wow. The system literally chose to kill its most successful program, rather than change.
This was the moment that changed everything. Sandefer is now looking for a school for his own kids. He asks a respected headmaster, when's the right time to move my sons from this kind of free, Montessori-style environment to a more traditional school? And the headmaster's answer, it wasn't just an answer, it was a warning. And it's what truly lit the fire for Acton Academy.
So, the traditional route was a dead end. The system had pushed back. So what did Jeff and his wife Laura do? They tear up the old playbook and start with a completely blank sheet of paper. They didn't want to just tweak the existing system. They were going to build a brand new kind of school, first and foremost, for their own kids. And it was all built on one single powerful idea.
And this is it. This is the mission. Every child who enters our school is a genius who deserves to find a calling that will change the world. Think about how different that is. Most of us went through an education system that felt like it was designed to find our flaws, to point out what we're bad at. Acton is built on the exact opposite premise. It's designed to find that one thing you're uniquely great at.
Now, when they say genius, they're not talking about a 180 IQ score, not at all. A genius is anyone with a special, unique talent that they can offer to the world. Sandefer's favorite example is this. The best plumber in town is a genius. And you know what? That person is probably going to be way happier and, frankly, more successful than your average run-of-the-mill Ivy League graduate.
Okay, so that's the big idea, the why behind it all. But what does this actually look like in practice? How do you run a school like this day to day? Let's dive into the nuts and bolts of a place where the kids are in charge, not the adults.
First off, you can forget about A's, B's, and C's. Progress at Acton is measured in 3 totally different ways. First, there's effort. Basically, how hard are you trying? You earn points for the work you put in. Second is attainment. What skills have you actually mastered? And you don't just prove it on a test, you prove it in a public exhibition. And third, and this is huge, is character. You get a 360-degree review from your own classmates on how good of a citizen you are. And I wasn't kidding when I said the students run the school. The adults are just guides. They're not allowed to give answers, only ask questions. The kids set the rules, they handle arguments, cliques, even what happens when someone cheats. They have their own audit committee made up of other students to review work and make sure no one's getting a free ride. It's a community with real stakes, real responsibility, and real consequences.
And they take these skills out into the real world. And they do it fast. I mean, picture this, an 11-year-old walking into a local business and pitching them for an apprenticeship. They're not just saying, please give me a chance. They're saying, I promise to work incredibly hard. Because if I fail, I'm not just letting myself down, I'm letting my entire community down. How can you say no to that? It's an almost unbeatable pitch. And yeah, it works, like 98% of the time.
Okay, let's talk about the money, because this part is just mind-blowing. Because the students are running the show and the learning is mostly self-directed, you don't need a huge staff or a massive building. The overhead is tiny. So look at this chart. A public school in Austin can cost over $32,000 per student per year. An Acton-style micro school, it can be done for as little as $1,000 to $2,500. That's not just a little cheaper, that's a whole different universe of cost.
So, when you put all these pieces together, the Socratic method, the kids running the school, the real-world apprenticeships, it's all pointing in one direction. It's all designed for one single purpose, to help every single student start what they call the hero's journey. And what is that journey all about? Well, after talking to thousands and thousands of people, Sandefer realized that at the end of it all, when you're looking back on your life, it really boils down to three big questions. Did I do something that mattered? Was I a good person? And who did I love? And who loved me back? The entire Acton experience, from top to bottom, is built to be an engine to help kids start answering those questions for themselves, to give their journey a real purpose. Because in the end, the goal isn't just to memorize some facts or land a good job, it's to figure out what your unique contribution is. What's the gift you're here to give? So, the last question of the hero's journey isn't for them, it's for you. What story will your life tell?